So this video could be a little bit explosive, but that's just the way we like it. During one of my live streams, you were talking about dating, and I got a question that got me thinking and that I wanted to make a video on. Should I go abroad to find a wife? This question could also be reframed as, is dating in America really that bad? It's kind of a funny question on the surface, but unfortunately, I think this is becoming more and more of a valid question as years go on, given the American dating climate. So the fact that this is even a question, to me, reveals the sad nature of dating in America right now. Dating apps, high standards, cheating, hookup culture. I even think that those in happy relationships in America currently are like, wow, I'm glad I'm not single right now. I dated in America almost my entire life, and I've noticed a few bad themes and developments about dating here through both my own experiences and experiences of friends, especially in recent times. Right now, for the first time in my life, I'm in a serious relationship with someone who just happens to be from a foreign Latin American country, and I'm feeling great that this is going to be the one for me. Now, I didn't really set out to find someone from another place. It just kind of happened. Since living abroad the past few months and for heavy travel I've done the last few years, I've noticed some differences about dating in America versus overseas. So today we're going to discuss these differences from the perspective of an American who's dated both Americans and those from other countries. I'll be sharing a couple stories about my dating American failures, about how I met my lady and how it encouraged me to travel more, why dating has become so bad in America, what are the main differences of dating in America versus overseas, the risks of dating overseas, and more. And I'm hoping to just answer the question, or at least give you a little bit more information on, should I go abroad to find my wife? Which I still can't believe is a question. And you might actually be surprised by my answer at the end. So I just want to get something out of the way here. I love America. I bleed the red, white, and blue to the core, and I fully plan on moving back there as soon as I'm done with my world adventures. This video is in no way hating on the country that's given me so much. There are many people watching this, I'm sure, who are in happy relationships in America, and there's no way attacking you in this video. Obviously, there's great people everywhere, all over the world, and I'm not saying that dating abroad's better or that one group is better than another. Absolutely not. I just want to discuss the differences I've noticed and take a realistic look at American dating problems and how it might be different in other countries. Because there are differences, and let's be realistic here. America stinks at dating and marriage. This can be blamed on both men and women. America has many things going for it. It's business success, it's very powerful, but there's one thing that I think most of us can agree on, that marriage is something that we don't excel at. Compared to other countries, we have a fairly high divorce rate. And this could be due to a variety of statistical and cultural factors that contribute to this. One of them, I think, is heavy work culture. If one or both parties in the relationship is a heavily focused career person, this can come at the cost of a relationship. There has also been a decline in religion as a whole in America, which I believe creates a value divide. Like our grandparents had these shared common Christian values that brought them closer and gave them common ground to stand upon. And that's not as much of a thing anymore with the decline in religion. You also look at the political divide. The data shows that more and more young men are trending more conservative and more young women are trending more liberal, and this also creates a value misalignment. There's also been a rise in sexual partners, I believe, among both genders, and this contributes to less successful long-term relationships as well. So we've all seen the videos on the internet too of women getting together saying that their guy must be 6 foot, he must make 6 figures and have to pay for all their dates. And I believe there's, in America, there seems to be this unrealistic standard that men are held to. America as a whole does have a money-driven kind of business materialistic culture, which I believe elevates the dating standards for men as they need to compete to make more money. And now let's talk about dating apps. The data shows that the average woman only really swipes right on the top percentile of men, and it's not true if you reverse the genders. And although it's difficult to measure compared to other countries, America seems to have declining mental health and happiness as well, and that's a big problem. So now let me talk about some of the issues I had in relationships back in America. So WhyLearn, who's a moderate, conservative, Christian white male, sometimes was at odds with the average woman in America, who has liberal views, usually non-religious more and more, and often found my values just differed drastically from those I'd go on dates with, and this made long-term relationships difficult. I did have a few serious relationships in America with good people, but I think I ran into a few problems that illustrate America's dating culture as a whole. One of my first big relationships ended because she said that we were too different in our values, and she was correct about that. She specifically called out religion and politics. Religion because it was important to my life and not hers, and politics because I just wasn't interested in some of the causes she was supporting. And then another one of my serious relationships, and this one lasted about 3 years, essentially ended because our relationship was really taking a backseat to her career. And on top of that, she would get really stressed about it and wasn't very nice to me. I had a lack of stress about my career because I thought I was doing pretty well. And she had the audacity to tell me that I needed to be more ambitious. And I was like, bro, I'm making 6 figures when I'm 24 years old. What more do you want from me? And she was from, a very wealthy family, which I honestly believe ruined her perception of what good money is when your family's pulling in huge income. So not only were there kind of some unrealistic standards, but it's also very hard to build a successful relationship around someone who will prioritize her career at all costs. I felt like any time our relationship needed work or attention, it was always just taking a backseat to whatever career stuff was happening at the time. When I was single, the struggles in the dating market continued as well. I usually didn't have much trouble getting dates in my mid-20s, but getting dates I was interested in pursuing was a whole different challenge. I remember one time I was on a date and it was going very well. Good chemistry, good conversation. And then she told me that she's very involved in political movements in our city. And then she's like, I have to ask, what side of these issues do you fall on? And then when I expressed my views, it just basically turned into a political debate at the Cheesecake Factory over dinner that, got nowhere, as they always do. And then I basically ended by saying, like, sorry, I just don't support what you support. I gave you my reasons, and maybe we can agree to disagree. And eventually, I ended up breaking it off with her because I just couldn't get past the causes she was supporting so heavily, and I knew just based on prior experience that the problems that would create in a long-term relationship. So I noticed a common theme while being single in America, which was that the dateable chicks, like the ones you'd love to have a relationship with, the ones with healthy lifestyles, good social lives, good values, they really got taken very quickly, and they weren't single for very long. And what was left to date for me was often, like I said, partiers, people with different values than mine, people who slept around, or people who I just wasn't interested in. But nonetheless, I kept trying. Women in America do seem to have these highly unrealistic expectations and standards, less religious, and just it seemed different. Like as I got older, the experience just seemed different. It was never my intention to date outside of America. It just sort of happened by accident. In 2023, I made a point to travel more with both friends and family, and as part of this first adventure, I went to a resort in the Dominican Republic with my family and a few friends. And while here, I met a lovely lady who was there traveling with her family on vacation as well. One day I was out and about with one of my friends also on the vacation. I noticed an attractive lady, and like WhyLearn normally does after a few beers, he goes up to chat with her. Shoot or shoot. We really hit it off and ended up spending most of the vacation together, like going on lunch dates, having deep conversations about life, talking about our faith, walking down the beach, going to the disco at night to dance, and we had an all-around amazing time. It was like one of those classic vacation romances. And then when it came time to say goodbye, it was hard to say goodbye. But in my head, I was like, wow, that was amazing experience and story to tell, but there's no way that I'm ever going to see this person ever again. She mostly lives in Colombia, and she had plans to study in Europe, and my whole life and my whole career is in Wisconsin. So I was like, yeah, right, WhyLearn, like, let's be realistic here. But we kept in contact. We began talking throughout the day, and texts turned to FaceTimes and kept talking more and more, and we really had a connection. We just had this energy that's hard to describe that I'd never felt with anyone before. Eventually, we made plans to see each other again. And this is just a side note too, for this next part of my journey, it is a very good thing that I had my money right to be able to comfortably afford, the travels that came next. Because money gives you options in life, and I could not have pursued this without working and saving my ass off in my 20s. And so begun my more in-depth travel adventures: Mexico, Italy, Colombia, Malta, London, and more. And she spent some time studying in Europe while working, so I would go and visit often. And of course, everyone in my life thought I was crazy. They're like, WhyLearn, why are you doing this? You have options here at home. Like, foreigners just want your green card, man. Like, stuff like that. And believe me, I analyzed all of it. But what I saw was in front of me was someone who was smart, much more educated than me. She actually had a master's degree, had a great job in America, had money, was very well connected to the same religion as me, similar political views, great relationships with her family, and I met some of her friends, and they were awesome too. And despite the wealth inequality of our countries, they often insisted on paying for me, and they loved me when I came to visit, and I just felt like they really accepted me, even though I was a foreigner to them. And more importantly, she treated me very well and was just very fun to talk to and hang out with, and she made me feel special in a way that nobody else had before. Now, during this time, I had plenty of opportunity to get back into the dating scene in America, and people were showing interest in me, but I just didn't want to. Like, let's see, I could talk to this amazing person with respect for life and a beautiful soul and keep going on adventures and expanding my horizons, or I could drag myself through more Hinge swipes, more dates with people I didn't align with, and go back to my boring insurance job in Wisconsin. And to me, the choice was obvious. We just had too much fun together, and I felt like I'd really be missing an opportunity being with an amazing person if I went back to the single life in America. So this played a huge part in my decision to leave my life behind, to travel and be with her, and also to follow my dreams at the same time. Fast forward to now, and we've been living in the same town since November, and we're just enjoying every minute of it and have a bright future ahead. I mean, as of now, I'm way more stressed about the fact that I'm finding ways to make more money than I am about our relationship. But in fact, she takes a lot of the stress away from me. In prior relationships, I often felt like it added more stress to my life. So that could be a great way of knowing if your relationship's right as well. Do they add stress or take it away? So there it is. There's my story. I wouldn't say I'm a full passport bro since I wasn't looking for this type of thing. I wasn't taking advantage of, people from different countries or having a passport or my money status. It just sort of happened. And this is my life now. So if this never happened, I almost certainly would have continued dating in America. And well, maybe who knows how it would have worked out. Here's what I've noticed just being in this relationship with someone from a completely different culture. Number one, I'd say they're much more family focused. Like, career is not priority number one. Like, it's being with family. I believe they're a little bit happier than Americans, and it's much better for a relationship knowing that they're going to put you and their family and their relationship first, even if something happens in their career. I noticed that Christianity is critical to your life here. People seem to be much more religious, which creates value alignment that I believe America's missing. It's kind of just a lost art in America. People all believe their own things. People in the US also, they tend to make politics their entire identity, and you have to walk on eggshells around a lot of people and watch what you say. And people elsewhere don't seem to do that. Like, politics is much less important to their lives to me, which is huge. People also have realistic expectations. Like, there's much less materialism here. Like, people aren't expecting you to make $1 billion, and they place a lot less value on how much you make, where I feel like in America, it's heavily valued, what your career is and how much you make. And then these next couple things might be controversial, but I feel like people here are just a little bit more caring, a little bit more like emotional. And I've never been treated better by someone. And maybe that's just her. Maybe it's the culture here. I don't know. Like, when I talk to them here, they, Americans and Europeans often have this what do you call it? This stereotype for just showing less emotion. And I would say that's true. I don't have data. And that has pros and cons too. But I'd also say that, the biggest pro of a lot of these other countries, and this is just going off feel, is they seem happier. Like, I get the vibe that people are just living in the moment. They're happier. They're fun people to spend time with. And there's no way to measure that, but and maybe it was the Wisconsin winter. But I don't know. People do seem happier in other countries sometimes. America has these traits that I believe contribute to its tremendous business success, but maybe not to its happiness. Now, it would be remiss of me to talk about the pros of this type of relationship without the cons. This is not something to be taken lightly. There has to be lots of preparation. Obviously, you need some money coming in to travel like this. There's no question about it. Unless you want to take a low-paying local job, like, it must be best to just stick to remote work or some sort of cushion you built up in the U.S. And I'm not sure this is something I'd recommend doing unless you really trust the person you're with or people you're traveling with. Because for me, you have to do your research into the person, make sure everything checks out. You need to be careful too, especially if you're traveling to a more dangerous country. You need to know the areas and what's safe and what's not. And you just really have to vet the whole situation. And also language gaps can create some difficulty as well. Unfortunately, if you're traveling, there's still a lot of scams that are targeting tourists with money. So you got to be a little bit more street smart. And I can maybe make some future videos on what to watch out for when traveling. And as with anywhere in the world, like, you're still at risk of finding materialistic, shallow people who want to take advantage of you. And I still hear stories occasionally where people want to be with you for financial gain or to secure a visa. So you still have to watch out for that. Just be smart. For me, materialism is a huge factor in this, like, as well as who her friends are. If she's friends with a bunch of partiers who hang out with questionable people and they have expensive tastes chasing after men, run for the hills. But if she's friends with just normal, down-to-earth, chill people who are professionals and have jobs, like, that's a big green flag. I also want to add this. If you're struggling to date in America, like, you're probably still going to struggle to date in many other countries. So if anything, you just slightly elevate your socioeconomic standing by going to one of these places if you're coming from a country with a strong economy. You aren't going to immediately become a 10 out of 10 just by traveling to another country. And honestly, it can be a little bit sketchy to go to places only because you have money. And I can see where passport bros develop kind of a bad reputation for, taking advantage of local people and sex tourism. To me, that's not acceptable. So if you decide to travel and you just don't know anything about how to handle dating, like, you might get preyed on. You might get taken advantage of. Like, you have to know how to date. You have to know how to handle these situations. So you can practice that in your own country. You need to develop the emotional discipline to handle it anywhere in the world. So the final question, should you actually go abroad to find a wife? Overall, I would say you don't have to. Like, there are places to meet great women in every country, in the United States too. And my story is very different from the norm and much more situation-based, luck-based. But I would say that, really work on yourself and find places with dateable chicks. This might not be the bar at 2 in the morning. This could be a workout group. This could be a church group. Anything that aligns with your values. I mean, I prefer people with healthy habits and good, solid values. But if you really keep having trouble with this type of dating environment, like traveling's not a bad option to learn more about yourself, and you'll personally grow by doing that. Men should be going where they're treated best, right? And this isn't an invitation to move and be mediocre. I'm just saying, if you're in a bad situation or the dating market gets way worse, like maybe it's time to travel more. Who knows? Like you'll have some fun adventures, some stories to tell, and who knows, you might even meet that special someone like I did. So don't take this advice too seriously. This is just my story, what I've experienced. I don't want to make any generalizations, obviously. So let me know what you think in the comments, and peace.